Good news is I've got a movie for you today, so we're not going to get to find out too much whether I'm the extraordinary speaker that I was billed as. I wouldn't want to disappoint you, but I'm going to speak quickly, and then I'll show the movie. Normally I start with positive stuff and move on to negative or cynical things just to challenge us all. I was told that these landscape talks, because they're taking place over lunch, need to be somewhat positive. So I'm going to start with the cynicism and then I'll move to the positive. But I think it's really important for us every time we come to a session like this, whether it's a GLF or a COP or anything else, a CBD COP, is to realize that we effectively, contextually, we're operating within a framework of failure. What do I mean by that? Well, the University of Maryland just recently came out with the latest figures for 2016, telling us that nearly 30 million hectares of tree cover were lost in that year. That's a 51% increase on the year before, an area the size of New Zealand. So I don't want to bring you all down over your lunchtime plates, but the thing is, we've been doing this for 10, 12 years, coming together. I think, in my mind anyway, the trigger point was the Bali COP. Every year, we lost an area that tree cover the size of England. This year it's New Zealand. Okay, so let's just challenge ourselves to kind of build on the comment that Baz made in the last panel, which I really welcomed, and that is, let's start making mistakes, because it's only through mistakes, delivering action on the ground, that we're able to learn and build. We cannot, as Barack Obama used to say, let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Okay, so that's enough with the cynicism. Althelia is a disruptive business. We were set up in 2011 as an impact investment business. In 2013, we launched the Althelia Climate Fund, which some of you might be aware of. It's about 100 million euros, committed to 11 or 12 investments globally, mostly in Latin America. In our portfolio, we've got about 200 million hectares of area under improved conservation and about 40,000 hectares of area under sustainable production. Those that nexus between production and protection, they work together like a gear. I'm going to show you what I mean by that in our little movie. We're going to have a quick look at the Tambopata Biodiversity Reserve in Madre de Dios, Peru. We have set up in the buffer zone of that national park a cocoa-based integrated agroforestry system that not only generates big subsistence benefits for economic actors, i.e. farmers operating in the buffer zone and in the surrounding area, but it also facilitates an economic wall, if you will, around the protected area, which is covered by a RED Plus system. And I'm hoping you have a... Absolutely. So you've been gazing at the picture there, which sort of demonstrates some of the impacts that have been achieved thus far, or that are scheduled to be achieved over the life of our fund and our engagement there. So those impacts, as you can see, span about 7 different themes that we focus on, which are aligned with the SDGs, ranging from biodiversity and ecosystem services straight over to poverty alleviation, inclusivity, sustainable enterprise, of course, climate as well. Specifically, what we've done there at Tambopata, we've involved about 350 farmers, most of whom are a member of a cooperative, COPASAR, that was set up and formalized with legal, accounting, and administrative documentation. We've installed thus far just under 1,250 hectares of cocoa-based agroforestry systems, which, like I say, are operating in the buffer zone. 600 hectares of that is grafted with fine and flavor aromatic clones, mixed with, and we think this is very important, in species of cacao indigenous to Madre de Dios. We've got about 345 family nurseries installed, and quite importantly, for added value on the ground rather than outsourcing it somewhere else in the supply chain or the value chain, we've got a post-harvest processing facility that's constructed, and that post-harvest processing facility can handle about 150 million tons of wet cocoa per month, which is more than we're producing right now. We've produced our first cocoa, or I shouldn't say we, the project, which is managed by our NGO partner IDARE, has produced its first cocoa and should be ramping up quite steadily over the coming 2 to 3 years. We've got 140 processors who are committed to converting their once conventional plots over to organic. The cooperative is fully certified to deliver fair trade and organic cacao, and we've also launched, with support of partners, Ecotierra, a traceability tool called Minka, which is going to be very important in the future as we scale it up. So without further ado, if I can ask the AV people to start the short movie so you can see what it looks like, and I'll stop rambling.
This was before pastures for extensive cattle range. And then the farmers were deforesting more and more because the soil got degraded. What we actually are doing is we partner with that farmer. And in this case, AIDER is the aggregator that unites all the farmers around the venture, in this case a cooperative of cacao, where you would earn more for 3, 4, 5 hectares of cacao rather than 10 or 20 hectares of extensive cattle. It's a $12 million investment program protecting the reserve of Tambopata, but also activities around the protected area with the target of avoiding the deforestation of 12,000 hectares of primary rainforest by 2021 and avoiding more than 4 million tons of CO2. And it's a mix between carbon credit sales and cocoa sales, which actually make the project around profitable. More than 85% go directly to the farmers. And then the other is shared between AIDER for doing more technical assistance, and the other part goes to Althelia's investors.
Ahora que nosotros estamos viéndolo como el proyecto está dentro de lo que es desde la plantación hasta el mercado, tiene un buen éxito. Entonces, esto es lo que voy a trasladar también a todos los que vienen atrás, los hijos y todo que también está, porque deben sentirse orgullosos que prácticamente nosotros somos la despensa del Perú. Entonces, eso es lo que a mí me orgullece. Soy contento de lo que soy.
So thank you. Yeah, we were fortunate enough, or AIDER was fortunate enough to win a UNFCCC Momentum for Change Award for what's going on in the field there, and we humbly accepted that with a lot of excitement, because it, again, I think it's very important when we sit in fora like this to demonstrate what action on the ground really looks like. So what's next at Tambopata? So we've worked really hard with AIDER and the Peruvian authorities, CERNAMP and MINAM, so that this project can be fully integrated into Peru's National RED Plus system and reflected in the baseline as it is assembled. As you know, most countries are not that far along with assembling and putting together these national reference levels. Very few are. Peru, happily, is farther than most. And it's a real challenge for those who want to actually be involved in action today, but also are committed to landscape-level accounting. So we're pretty pleased that we can document, we have documentary evidence that this is happening, and I think that it's a pathway that others can follow on it, particularly in Peru. Also exciting, in 2018, we're working on our first cocoa exports to Europe. We've prepared a long-term offtake agreement, which also is important because it's going to secure the expansion of the project finance structure in the area. And I mentioned we're committed to a landscape-level intervention. We're working with our partners on the scaling up in 2 phases. So right now I mentioned we've got about, sorry for the echo. Nope, okay. Sorry about the echo. We've got about 1,250 hectares under plantation today in the buffer zone. Eventually that will be scaled up in phase 2 to 5,000, with the potential for a further 5,000 of agroforestry systems to reinforce the conservation efforts along a much longer frontier. So hopefully that seems like good news to you. We think it is. And thank you to the GLF for giving us the opportunity to tell you a bit about it.